Sportsman's Adventures is presented by Yamaha.
Hey, good morning, Guy.
Hey, Rick, good morning. How's fishing going?
Fishing's been pretty good, you know. For the springtime, it's not so bad.
That's true. Well, guess what? I'm heading down to Mexico in a couple of days, and I need an angler really badly. Is it possible for you and Rich to come and join me on a tagging expedition in Mexico?
Absolutely. What do we got to know? Where do we got to go?
Well, you got to fly into Cancun. I'm taking down 12 pop-up archival tags to put on Mako sharks, but I need a good angler, a pair of good anglers to help us.
All right. Well, count me and Ridge in. I'll talk to him as soon as I see him. That'll be awesome. Well, thank you so much, Guy.
Well, that'll be great if you can make it. Looking forward to seeing you down in East Mujeres.
All right. We'll be there soon.
Go, baby! That's what I'm talking about!
Only a mama could love that mouth.
Bringing home the snappers! That's what Florida is famous for.
Just got off the phone with my dad. I'm super excited. The word is we're going to Mexico. We got the 50 wides in the bag and the rods in the rod tube. Meeting up with the rest of the crew at the airport, flying out down to Mexico. Gonna take a ferry over to Isla Mujeres and hopefully they're biting. Maybe we can tag some big Mako sharks.
Morning, Guy.
Hey, Ricky, welcome to Isla Mujeres. Good to have you here.
Man, what a beautiful setting.
Great place to get these. And right out there are the Mako sharks.
How's the fishing been?
It's been steady. You know, we've been coming here for 6 years, chasing Makos, tagging a lot of them. And it's a lot of fun. We get out there, we do some chumming, we dive with them, we hook them, we tag them. We try to do everything with this amazing animal.
Well, we've been talking about this since you started this expedition many years ago, coming down and filming with you, and I'm really so excited. I've never really had a personal encounter with a Mako except for once.
Well, you're going to see some, that's for sure. They're here.
You know, one of the things about this Isla Mujeres study site that we've got here is that, first of all, the captain that we work with, Anthony Mandillo, I mean, he was the one that told us about this place, that he was seeing a lot of Mako sharks there, but only during a certain time of year, during April and May. And something, obviously, is bringing them there at that time of year. You know, it's likely to be something that they're feeding on. Their prey items are actually moving through there at the time, and maybe that's why the Makos are also coming there. So this made it a very practical place for us to work because we knew that we would have a high chance of finding Makos there to catch and to tag. And the other thing that turned out to be particularly useful for this place is that the water is really clear there, which makes it great for filming the behavior of the animals underwater.
For sure, one of the things I'm going to remember about Isla is when we cleared the north end of the island and we approached the reef line, seeing the hundreds of man-o-war birds. You know, typically we see one or two on a good day of fishing, maybe if you're lucky, a half a dozen. But to see hundreds of man-o-wars positioned over the reef line, waiting for the bonitas to push up a school of bait, that's something that I'll never forget. And how the birds and the bonitas were working together so that they both could make a living, it's just amazing.
So what we're doing here is we're catching them. We're out where everybody's chumming. We got 3 boats out here chumming. Here's the wind on.
Okay. Play with the fish. Play with the fish.
Yeah. This is the first one I've ever caught.
Sportsman's Adventures is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Rapala. Catch the latest at Rapala.com. Costa Sunglasses. See what's out there. Okuma. Inspired Fishing. And StarTron. Cures and prevents fuel problems.
Master your most challenging offshore experience with confidence and ease with Yamaha Helmmaster. Precise, intuitive control on the open seas. Unrivaled ease for maneuvering and docking in port. And now SetPoint adds 3 new dimensions to boat control. Maintain boat position with fish point, or a position and heading with stay point, or a heading while you drift with drift point. Yamaha Helmmaster, now with SetPoint. Complete digital control for today's larger offshore boats.
As close as you're gonna get to a sure thing for catching billfish is Guatemala.
They're here, man. This has been a 20-year run, buddy. These things haven't left, there's no cycle. When it comes to sail fishing, this is the real deal.
The amount of sailfish here is ridiculous.
Building Conservation Trust, or BCT, is Coastal Conservation Association's national habitat program. BCT is striving to be the largest program of its kind in the United States by restoring degraded habitats, creating new habitats, advancing the science of coastal habitat and marine fisheries conservation, fostering habitat stewardship, and educating coastal communities of the value of conservation. Visit www.buildingconservation.org to learn more on how you can make a difference.
Thanks for watching Sportsman's Adventures. You can catch all the happenings, contests, and appearances by visiting us on sportsmansadventures.com. There you can find us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, but best of all, you never have to miss a show because you can find full episodes of Sportsman's Adventures along with tips and techniques, bonus clips, and even some bloopers. Also, if there's a product that we use during the show that you would like more information on, you can find links to our sponsors at the bottom of the home page.
Now we got Guy and my dad on this boat, and they're gonna come get parallel with us. And my dad's gonna have another rod similar to this one, but instead of having a wind-on leader, there's gonna be a tennis ball that's clipped to the snap swivel. They're gonna throw it over, and we're gonna wind this fish up, and they're gonna take this leader and snap the snap swivel from their rod over to this one. Cut this leader off. That way we can transport the fish over to the other boat safely without anybody getting hurt. I got him this far, it's on you now, Pop! That's cool.
Okay, great, good. Well, we just transferred another small female Mako shark from the Andrea and gave another typical Mako display at the boat side where they really don't want to get caught. And the key is to get the tail rope on, because sometimes you find the hook comes out, and the tail rope is absolutely essential. So the lift is lowered. Shark is swung onto the lift is raised, secured with 2 ropes, wet cloth put over the eye and the irrigation in the mouth. And then we've got to rotate the shark so it's upright on the platform, and so that Mahmood can deploy the tag. All the time we've got to keep the shark really suppressed and quiet. And they'll quieten down, and the drilling process takes 3 or 4 minutes. And off we go. As you can see, it takes 10 people to tag a Mako shark. So the tag is going on. It's called a spot tag, which means smart position and temperature tag. And basically, whenever the shark hits the surface, the tag is exposed to air. It sends a message to a satellite that says, "Hey, I'm here." And you get 3 or 4 hits a day or night. And we found that the Makos are more interactive with the surface than any other species that we've been working on, including tigers and oceanic whitetips. We're a pretty smooth team, and we got it down pat. And we take a length measurement, DNA sample, and we make as best possible use of the animal in as short as time as possible so we can release it in good condition. What is so cool is it's working. We've got a team out here. Obviously there aren't very many sharks around anymore, and so meeting one a day is about normal. But when you've got 3 or 4 people fishing for you, then you can obviously multiply your chances considerably of getting one. And it's, you know, we're only here for a week tagging these sharks, and we need to maximize our time out here. And it's working today. It's really good. Look at that! All right! Good luck.
Sportsman's Adventures is brought to you by Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. Contender Boats, always in the game. CCA and Building Conservation Trust, partners in conservation. Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. FWC, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. And Suffix, always use the best line.
It's one of the most ancient forms of hide and seek known to man. And nobody knows how to play the fishing game better than the backcountry guides and offshore captains of the Florida Keys and Key West. Ready or not, here we come.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore.
Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
When you're paid to put fish in the boat, you don't mess around with the thing that puts fish in the boat. Always use the best line.
So the shark is swimming around with this tag on it. And the way the tag works is that every time the shark comes close to the surface, close enough so that the tag or most of the tag is actually above the water, it then sends a signal to the tag to transmit the position of the shark to orbiting satellites. And we're back here in the office, in the lab, and we can actually, in almost real time, it's not quite real time, but it's within a couple of hours, we can tell where that shark is anywhere in the Atlantic Ocean, which is pretty amazing. And that then allows us to create these long-term movements, these long-term tracks of the animals, which is really quite amazing nowadays. Now, in addition to putting the tag on the shark, we also assess a few other things about the shark. First of all, we take measurements of the shark, the length of the shark, We get its sex. It's easy to tell a male from a female in the case of sharks. And we take a little piece of tissue from the shark because we want to study the shark in terms of its genetic makeup, in terms of its population genetics. The length of the shark tells us what stage of development the shark is at, whether it's immature or whether it's mature. And that's really important because we think, and this is something that we need to explore some more, is that juvenile sharks have different movement patterns compared to adult sharks. You know, adult sharks are much bigger and they can travel, we would expect them to travel much longer distances. So those measurements combined with the DNA analysis gives us a whole host of information on what the shark is doing, not only in terms of its movements, but also in terms of its general ecology.
225.
So we have really two big questions we're trying to answer by tracking these animals. A big question is, what are their migration patterns and their timing of migrations? Now, we all know that these sharks can travel very, very long distances, but information on where they're going and when they're going is still in its very early stages of knowledge. And we know these sharks are also fished quite heavily, and their populations have gone down. And so by trying to figure out, or by understanding where these sharks are spending a lot of time, that information can then be used to allow policymakers to then make regulations to protect these animals in areas where they're essentially sitting ducks if you don't protect them. The other big important thing we're trying to find out is where these sharks might be mating, in other words reproducing, and also giving birth. And that again is a really important area to protect, because if you fish them while they're reproducing, you are having a huge negative impact on the populations of these animals. And if you're fishing where they're giving birth, that's equally as bad. So those two pieces of information, you know, where they're going, when they're going, where they're spending their time, and where they're where they're reproducing, are critical parts of conserving, of making policy to conserve these animals, so that they're available for the world to fish in a sustainable way.
So in honor of Jack Hanna, with whom we work with the SeaWorld team, we're going to name this mature male Mako shark the Jack Hanna. Safe travels, Jack.
So the big picture here is that once we have tracked enough animals and we have a really good idea of their patterns of movement and where they're spending time, that information is now, I mean, you've learned about the behavior of these animals, and that information is then, in our case, because we're a research entity, we publish this information in the form of scientific papers, but we also provide this information to government agencies that are in charge of managing the fisheries so that they remain sustainable. And that information is used by the management agencies then to create a set of regulations to make sure that these sharks are not being overfished in places where they're particularly sensitive to being caught. Now, we just had a very interesting thing happen as part of these studies, is that in a combination of the Mako sharks we were catching off Isla Mujeres and off the US East Coast, we found that over time about 30% of our tagged sharks got captured. That was not expected. And that was a huge finding, because it demonstrated that the amount of fishing pressure on these sharks is really, really high.
All right, so now we're going to tow the shark for a little while to revive it. And the way we can tell the shark is okay is we'll watch the tail beats. Once it starts to beat its tail in a regular fashion, it's already doing that right now, we can let the shark go.
Of course, the question is, why Makos? And it turns out that Makos, in addition to being, by the way, they happen to be the closest cousin to white sharks. but they are also a top-level predator in the ocean. These animals are major upper-level predators that have a lot to do with maintaining the health of the oceans. If you take out top predators from the ocean, there will be cascading negative effects throughout the entire food web. Makos in particular are also very slow reproducers. Females don't get mature till they're about 18 years of age. And then they only reproduce once every 3 years. And they only produce anywhere between 6 to 8 young at a time. And so their ability to recover from overfishing is really, really low. So if you put all those things together, their importance in the ecosystem, their lower reproduction, the overfishing that's going on, that makes this species a particularly interesting one to focus conservation, important one to focus conservation attention.
The idea here in reviving it is to swim it along, tow it behind the boat for a little while, and the point of this is to get seawater flushing through the mouth and over the gills so it gets more oxygen. The tail's beating really regularly now. This shark is in good shape. Tough old boy.
Should be able to dehook him. Yeah, right there. Boom. Nice. Okay, perfect. There he goes.
Cool,
beautiful.
Nice.
Sportsman's Adventures is brought to you by Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, and Pathfinder. Soft Science, supreme comfort footwear. The American Fishing Tackle Company, any fish, any water, since 1958. And the Florida Keys and Key West, come as you are.
The key to a great boating experience has the Yamaha name on it. It's your key to legendary reliability. Right now, during the Yamaha Key to Reliability sales event, purchase any qualifying Yamaha outboard and exercise your power of choice between 5 years of Yamaha warranty protection or up to $1,500 in Yamaha dealer credit. The key to reliability is now your key to a great deal on a Yamaha outboard. Yamaha. Reliability starts here.
The island of Isla Mujeres, Mexico is just a short ferry trip from Cancun, with some of the best accommodations and natural beauty the Western Caribbean has to offer. Isla Mujeres is only 5 miles long and a half-mile wide. For hundreds of years, the island was a fishing village, and even though it's become a travel destination, it still has its tranquil atmosphere. During the day, the island is bustling with day trippers that enjoy the white sand beaches. But many travel-savvy American tourists come to enjoy high-end amenities without compromising their wallets. If you want to go fishing, Captain Anthony and his Blue Water Encounters crew will give you an experience like no other. He even offers diving trips to see whale sharks. And of course, back at the dock, you never know who you might run into. But once the sun goes down, the nightlife of Isla Mujeres starts up. And since the downtown area is small, it's perfect for exploring by foot. So if you're looking to get away from the hustle and bustle of the big city, a relaxing trip to Isla Mujeres is exactly what you need.
Out of all the sharks that we tag, what's the mortality rate? How many of those have been harvested?
The Mako sharks have had the highest mortality rate. Very good question, because we've lost nearly 30% of the Makos to commercial fishing pressure in 5 different countries now. And the science has also shown that they swim through 17 different countries in the short time that we've been studying them.
So, you know, that also raises the question, if what we're seeing happening to Makos in terms of overfishing is also occurring with many other shark species, then we have a major problem. And a lot of people suspect that's what's going on. But it's really important to come up with direct evidence that other sharks are being overfished. There is evidence for some of that. But overall, you know, I like to think of Makos as sort of a model system to reflect what is going on in the ocean with our sharks.
And so there's the value of science. People ask all the time, why is it so important to do the research? Without the research, we are simply guessing. We have no idea what these animals do, where they go, how often they breed, what size they get to, what the population mix is. All these questions can be answered with research work.
Thank you for inviting me and my son Ridge. It was an awesome
Ridge,
experience to
well
be
done.
there.
Caught your first Mako today.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well done, buddy. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
It was a father and son tag team there.
How'd that feel, bud? You get to hand off your shark to your old man
Yeah,
so that I could put the tag on him.
Knowing that I did all the hard work for you, just pushed you over.
I felt like a major league pitcher. I came in the 9th inning. All I had to do was throw 5 fastballs, and I was out of the inning. And now I'm going to be celebrating with some kind of cocktail with an umbrella in it.
Okay.
Sounds cool, huh?
Well, let's go and do that.
Let's go do that.
Keep up with the latest Sportsman's Adventures news and events by logging into our website at sportsmansadventures.com and following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Coming up next week on Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy.
There he is, Kill. I'm gonna back off on the drag a little. We don't burn him off. He finally figured out there was something wrong with my pilchard.